So we are just going to start now. So welcome everyone. We've actually finished HTML already. And I mean, that's a good thing. It's showing that we are making progress, right? We finished like a first technology. And if you've been following and doing the practicals, which I believe everyone has been doing, you would have mastered HTML by now. You would have gotten used to what a lot of stuff mean, and we talked about what HTML is, how is the backbone of every website you see, every web page on your browser is HTML that's responsible for that. We've covered what's it called, semantic and non-semantic elements. The semantic elements has more meanings, and it's always better to use those. We talked about, the last thing we talked about was meta tags, but before that we treated forms, we treated tables, we treated forms, we treated tables, we treated meta tags for SEO, search engine optimization, right? We talked about how you should always have SEO in mind, especially if that site is a site that you want people to discover when they type into the search engine. You should be able to code, like program your site to basically rank better on search engines in the way you use maybe alt tags for images, put meta tags in the head, and use semantic elements and all of those things. So this week now we are going to be moving to design, which is CSS. So CSS is going to be responsible for all the colors, all the styles that you see, how things are positioned on the page. CSS is going to be responsible for all of that. So this week now, what is CSS? CSS basically stands for Cascading Style Sheets, and it's a styling language. A styling language that's used to describe presentation of a web page. So it's all about presentation, it's all about aesthetics. It allows you to control the layout, the design, any visual aspects, anything you can see, colors, font size, positioning, spacing, and stuff like that. That is CSS responsible. Why use CSS? You use CSS for separation of concerns. So CSS will allow you to separate HTML content from design. So HTML is just content, like the text that is being fed on the browser, that's HTML. But design now, you can now separate that text from design by using CSS to now further make it look visually more pleasing. And it makes your code more modular and easier to maintain, right? Then responsive design. So in the world of development, there's something called responsiveness, and this is like one of the most important things. So you would see that when you are on your laptop or on a large desktop, the site is fine, and when you go on a tablet or a mobile phone, the site should still follow the size of the device you are using and scale down to fit that device. I'm sure we've all noticed this in websites, and there are some websites that are not built for responsiveness, which is really, really wrong and poor design. You see that when you switch to mobile, everything just breaks and looks ugly. So this is one key concept we'll be talking about later down the line. I think week 6 or 7 or 8, I'm not sure, but we are going to be treating responsiveness as one full topic on its own. But this CSS is responsible for that. So remember, we said CSS is all about layout, presentation. So even on different screens and devices with CSS can give you this whole responsive design. And how CSS works, CSS is basically rules. You apply rules to those HTML elements that we've been creating now. That's basically what CSS is. You can style the elements based on maybe the type of the element. So let's say you can style all H1s, heading ones on the page to be a certain style. You can style all paragraphs to be a certain style. You can style all div if you're still using div, or you can style all sections if you're using more of semantic elements to be a certain style. Or you can even use classes. You don't have to target the specific element and style it. You can attach something called classes to a particular element and style that class, and the element automatically assume any rule you've given it in that class. And we'll see all of this in practice. Or you can even use IDs. Remember, we talked about IDs in HTML, although that was for a different reason, but it's the same concept. Is that hashtag, you put in hashtag and a unique ID on a particular element, and you can also style that ID in CSS. Remember, in HTML, we did an ID so that we can jump to a section of a page. This time around, you can use the same concept and style a particular element to do something. Now, how CSS works. We already talked about how it's based on rules made up of selector and declaration block. So basically what this just means, I'm not going to complicate it, but the selector is what specifies which HTML elements the style will be applied to, while the declaration block contains one or more declarations or rules in a curly braces. So these things you see here, this one you see here is called a curly braces. It's called curly braces, right? So the declaration, the selector is H1 in this case, which is the element that you are specifying that you want to style. Oh, I moved. Which is the element you are specifying that you want to style. This is the selector, and the declaration or the rules are inside here. So here we are basically saying H1 should have a color of blue and a font size of 36. Finish, that's it. And once you look in your page, you will see that it has that. Types of CSS, we have different types of CSS. We have inline CSS, we have internal CSS, and we have external CSS. The most recommended is external CSS because it keeps your work cleaner, more modular, and you can use it to style different things all at once. So inline CSS, you kind of write it directly on the element. So let's say I want to style this H1 now. I will write the style right inside here. And this is the syntax. Style is equal to column, color, semicolon, blue. And then you close. That's it. Internal CSS is a little different. You will use the style tag, but you place that tag inside the head. You remember how we usually place meta in the head section? So you place style as one of, we place title, we place meta. So you place style the same way, open and close. And inside there, you now write your style, the same thing, H1, color blue. While external, you will do it in a different file altogether and import it into anywhere you want to use it. So you would write it in a different file, just like this H1 color blue, and then you import that file with link. But this link, you attach it in the head section, the same way you place meta or title. You put the link like this, and it carries style sheets. And then the href is just the path. Remember the way we link images / image1.jpg or something like that. So the same thing. If your file is called styles, it's just styles.css, or if it's in another folder, you just link it basically. Now, why use CSS? Consistent styling. So you can use CSS to apply consistent styling across multiple page. Maintainability as well. You can change the design of the whole website just from changing one file. And again, keep in mind that we recommend external style sheet as a type of style. So you will get most of these benefits when you use external style sheets. I will still show you how to use all, but primarily we'll be using mostly external style sheets because that's the best practice. Accessibility as well. CSS will also improve your website accessibility. Like it will allow you to customize design without changing content. So for example, now, let's say some people vision, they might not be completely visually impaired, but basically like the way their eye picks up colors like contrast, you can use CSS to give a better text against a background. Let's say your background is white, right? You can use CSS to give the text a darker color so that it's going to contrast better and it can work for everybody. That's basically the accessibility. Then responsiveness, we talked about that. You can use it to make your website look good on all devices, regardless of how big or small that device is. Then performance as well. So using external style sheets will help you reduce your page load time versus trying to put all your style inside the same file using internal or inline. And again, CSS in action. These are just some more examples. Remember, we did like something like this in HTML, H1, P tag. So if you want to style this too now, you just call H1 and give it the style you want, call P and give it the style you want, or you pass a class name inside them and style the class inside the CSS. We will look at this. Don't overthink it. Don't be confused. So we have something called CSS selectors. So remember, we talked about selectors initially. The selector is the elements you want to style, and the rule is what you put inside the style, right, or the declaration. So, but inside those selectors, we have different types. We have element selector, which is the one we looked at. You can just target an element. Say you want to change the color of all the H1s on your page. You just call H1 and style it like this, or you call P and style it, or you call div and style it. That's element selector. But we have other ones. We talked about class as well, where you give the element a class and then put the style in the class. We talked about ID, where you give the element a hashtag and then put the style in the hashtag. We will see all of this again in practice. Then there's something called group selectors. So this one, you group multiple selectors together. So all along, we've just been doing one element, one class, one ID. But this one, you can group multiple elements and style all of them, give all of them the same color. We have universal selectors. This select all the elements on your page and styles it. And you just use this asterisk symbol. Then more on selectors, we have other types of selectors as well. We have descendant selector. You may not use these ones too much, but I just want to talk about it so that you know it, so that it will be that, okay, you've seen it or you know what it is. So descendant selector, where we have parents, child. So this selector will target all the child elements inside parent elements, no matter how deep the nesting is. So basically, remember when we did some things like section, inside section, we now have H1. And then we now have P tags, right? We did some stuff like that. So section is the parent because it's outside, while H1 and those P tags are the children because they are inside of section. So you can target it with, you can target the descendants of that section, which is basically the P and the H1 that we put inside the section, right? You can target all the children of that section and style them. We are going to look at this. Then we have child selector. This one now, the selector will target the direct children of a parent element. Then we have adjacent, we have things like adjacent siblings, general siblings. Again, you may not use all of these ones too much, to be honest. Like, you most likely just write classes and style classes most times. You may not necessarily do all of these adjacent sibling and gen, but I'm just saying it because I just wanted to know that there's something like this, and if you ever have need to use it, you can go and look it up and understand more of what it is. But basically, adjacent sibling will target the next element that follows the previous element. So general sibling as well targets all siblings that come after a specified previous element. The concepts are kind of confusing, and I don't want you to dwell too much on these advanced CSS selectors because, again, like I said, you may or may not get to use them too much. I just want you to know that there's something like this, and if you ever feel the need to maybe target elements in that way, you can go and look it up, but it's generally not overused like that. You find yourself using more of direct classes, which are this one, or elements targets or ID targets mostly. Then we have something called specificity, why some styles will not apply. So sometimes you see that you've styled an element and it's not working, and it's because another rule is more important or more specific. It's like a ranking system. So the way CSS naturally ranks things, internal styles has the highest value, has the highest ranking, followed by IDs, followed by class, followed by elements. So what this means is that if I write a class and I style a class now, and in my HTML, and I'll show you this in practice again, in my HTML, I still go and write another internal style with a different style. It will take the internal style over the class I've written by default. So you have to remove maybe the internal one or the class, but it's going to take the style of the internal one. So you'll be wondering why, oh, the class that I'm styling and applying on this element is not working. No, it's because you also have an internal inline style rather on that element. That's why the inline style is taking importance over the class. Box model and spacing. We have something called box model. Basically, every element on a web page is treated as a box with 4 components. The 4 components is the content of the box itself. So these contents, the padding, the border, and the margin. So basically, content, like I said, is the actual content, like this text you are seeing or images that we've put. That's the content. The padding is the space between the content and the border. I don't know if we all know what border is. Border is like a line around our content, right? You've all seen borders if you use Microsoft Word or stuff like that. Border, or like even the table we did, remember we had something like border. It just creates like a line around our content. So that's a border. The content is the main content itself, like the text and the images. The padding is the space between that border now and your content. So any space, if you have a border like that is square around this content now, any space between that border and where the text or other images are, that's the padding. And the margin is now the space outside of the border. So let's say you have a border now, right? The margin will be outside of this border and the padding will be inside of the border while there's a content. Again, we are going to see what all of this thing means in practice. So I just gave a small example here. We are trying to style a div and we are giving it a border of 5px, solid black, and a margin of 20px, padding of 10px, and width of 300. So that div now will be 300 pixels wide, and it's going to have a border around it, a thick 5-pixel border that is black color. And then the space outside of the border will be 20px, and the space inside of the border before the content that you want to put inside that div will be 10px. We are going to see this in action. Now, class naming and best practices. So there are some best practices generally when you are naming things, when you are styling. Always use good class names or good ID names, names that are very descriptive, clear meaning. If I look at the name of that style that you are trying to apply, I should know what that style is trying to do, or what elements that style is trying to work with. Avoid generic name, like just naming things box 1 or red or something. Give it a real name. If you're trying to style an error message, give it the name of that. If you're trying to style a card to be displayed on somewhere, give it that name. So think semantically, like describe what the element is. So if this element is a card for displaying products, describe it in the class name, product card. Not necessarily how it looks, not that, oh, it's a square box and you just write square box. No, describe what the element is trying to display. Is always better that way. And I think this is all we have for today. We are going to move into practice now. I didn't want to dwell too much on talking because I feel like ultimately if I start to do it, more of these things will make sense. But we are going to look at how to use like selectors. We'll mostly do like class and ID selectors, to be honest. We'll look at box model and spacing, which is this padding, margin, border, width stuff I talked about, and content. Then we'll look at how to, obviously, we are going to be using this in the project, the ongoing project we've been doing. So we'll move on to our practice section now. We still have our website as usual. It's looking like this. It's not the nicest looking stuff, but today we'll attempt to style it well and see what that looks like, right? So I'll just quickly show you what an inline style looks like, but I'm not even using inline styles today. I just want to show you. So let's quickly try to style this text. Welcome to the world of beautiful landscapes. Let's make the color blue. Right, just to show you what inline styles is. I don't care for inline styles. I don't want to use it. I just want to show you how to use it if you ever need to use it. So you will just come here and write style is equal to, and then make your quotes, and then just say color. Just pick a color blue. So you can either pick default colors in the system that have been specified, or there's something called color codes. You can use color codes to, get your colors out, anyone. I'll explain what color codes is in a later section, like a different week, but for now let's just style this element. So style color pink, and then you have to put this closing quotes, right? That's it. Well, it's taking off my closing quotes. I don't know, but yeah. So if I refresh this page now, you should see that this has become pink. So this is basically inline styles. It's very simple. So you can style everything here like this, but it's not efficient. And as time goes on, I wouldn't even have to explain to you. You'll see why it's not efficient. Because imagine you have like 100 H1 in your page and you want all your H1 to be the same. You're going to be writing style, color pink, style, color pink, style, instead of just doing it one place and everything will take that style. This is one reason why we say don't always use inline styles. So that's just an example I've shown you. Obviously, if it's recording, once you go back to recording, you'll see how to apply it again from the recording, but this is inline style. Now let's do internal styles. So inline is called inline because it's literally on the same line as the element you are trying to style. Internal is called internal because although it's not on the same line, it is still inside the same document, inside the same index.html. But the problem with this one is that it will only affect things in index.html. It will not affect any other page. Even if you're trying to use the same styles for another page, let's say for contact and portfolio, This will only affect index because it's internal, it's inside of index. But you do it like this, style. This is how you do it, style. You open style tag in the head, right? In the head. Let's say we want to style that H1. You can just call H1. So this one will target all H1s now on this page. And let's do the color as, let's say aquamarine, right? And that's it. So if we refresh now, it will change to aquamarine. But this will not affect any other H1 on another page. All other H1s will still look the same. And that's the problem with internal styles as well. It's just for that specific page, so not recommended. And by the way, external is always even better for loading page better. So always just use external styles as much as possible. Try to avoid internal styles or inline styles as much as you can. But this is internal styles, just to show you as well. But today, like I said, we are going to be only doing external styles. So how to do that? You create the style file. So you can just name it styles.css, or if you even want to be more organized, you can create separate style files for each of your page. So you can create one global style file for any style that will appear on all the pages. Then for any style that is specific to your page, you can now create separate style files for those ones. But I don't want to complicate it, so I'll just create one style file. But what I will do is that I will put it in a folder. I will just call it styles folder, so that if we want to create other styles in the future in different files, we can just add it inside this one folder. We are trying to be organized here, but for now, I'll just create the first style file. I'll call it styles.css. So for CSS, it ends with .css. Remember, HTML is .html. So for CSS, is .css. And now we have created our styles.css, right? So now you have to link it to any page you want to use it. So if I want to use it, for example, in my index page, you can just come and link it in index. And to link it, you just say link, and you pass in this rel keyword, and is style sheet, because it's a style sheet, right? So style sheet. And then you pass in the link. So mine is in styles/styles.css. That's where mine is. As you can see, if I jump there, it will even take me to the file. So that's where mine is. And then you close it. It's a self-closing tag. So you don't need to do another separate closing tag, but it's a self-closing tag, just like Meta. And just like that, we've linked our file, our CSS, but we don't have anything yet inside it. So now we are ready to start coding the styles that we want to see, right? This Meta is a little bit disturbing for me, like it's disturbing me. So I'm going to collapse it. In VS Code, you can close some things. You can still open it anyway. If I close this block now, I can still open it, but I just want to see more of my code instead of all this meta. So I'm going to try and close some of these meta tags that we are not necessarily using now. Yeah, just so that it helps me see more of my body than just meta. So yeah, now we've linked our style. Oh, we are ready to start coding now. So for me, in my style, remember we said we can target specific elements, or we can give them class names, or we can give them ID, right? So I want to give my body, like the whole body, this whole body document now, I want to give it a general style first. I'll still style other elements inside of this, but I just want to style my body, just a style that will be applied to the body in general. So I will just target body like this. That's it. You've targeted the body. And for my body, I want to give it a font family. Font family. This is how you write font family in CSS. So you give it any font family you want. So as you can see, VS Code is even bringing out different options for me. I'll just choose this one. So what this means is that when the thing first loads, it will try to use this font. But first, if something goes wrong and it doesn't see this font, it will fall back and try to use this one. If it doesn't see this one, it will fall back and try to use this one. Like that. If it doesn't see anyone, last to use sans serif. because sans serif is like a default font. It will always see sans serif, but before it gets here, it will try all these ones in the order that they come. So everything on my body now will always use this font. I don't need to go and target other elements and say use the, unless I want to change to a different font. But everything on my page now will always use this font, right? Then I want to give it a background color of let's say F9, F9, F9. This is like a light gray, an off-white basically, right? And then I want to give it margin of 0, padding of 0, and then there's something called box sizing, border box. I will explain in a minute. So again, this has to do with the box model, that box model we talked about, right? Where we said it contains 4 things: the contents, the margin, the padding, and the border itself, right? So for my entire body, I don't necessarily want any margins or any padding because I'm still styling the main body. For the other elements, I can give it a margin and padding, but for the main element, I don't want any margin or anything like that. And then the box size modifies how the box model behaves. The font has changed because I changed the font family. If you've noticed, our font has changed, right? So now, the next thing I would want to style is my navigation. This header. I want to style this header. So I'm just going to use a class for it. I'm not going to target the elements with header, which you can do, but because I'm teaching you different ways to target elements, this one we targeted the body directly. Now let's use class for this one and see what it looks like. So I'll just give this header a class. To give something a class, you say class is equal to, and then you pass in the name of the class. And remember, we say use descriptive names. So I will just call my class nav header. That's what I will call my class. Now I will go and style this class. To pick the class, this nav header, right? To pick it, you will just say dot nav header. And that's it. And like that, you've already targeted this element by passing in this class to it. You've already targeted this element just like that. This header element, you've targeted it just by passing nav header class to it. And then you can now style your nav header. So for me, I want my own to be text aligned. I want the text to be centered on the header. And I want my header to have a padding of 10 pixels on the top. So there's something called so in this padding as well, I'll show you something now. There's something called padding top, 10 pixels. And you can do padding bottom, 10 pixels. And you can do padding left. Let's say I don't want any padding on the left. I'll just do 0. And then padding right. I'll just do 0. I also don't want padding on the left and right. So if I refresh this now, you see that my text is centered and the padding top and bottom is there, although you may not see it, but it's there. But instead of writing top, bottom, left, right, what you can just do, shortcut, is just say padding in one line. The first value is usually the top. So I want 10 px on top. The second value, it goes top, right, bottom, left. So the second value is going to be the right. I want 0 on the right. The third value is going to be the bottom. I want 10 on the bottom. And the last value is going to be the left. I want 0 on the left. So all that padding top, padding bottom, padding left, this is it. Top, right, bottom, left. And that's it. You see that it's still going to take the same style and the same padding. You don't have to write 4 different styles. And the same thing for margin. Margin works this way as well. Now, I want to give my header a background color. Let's just say I want it to be slightly gray. Again, I'll show you people what these color codes mean and where to find them if you need a color code. But there's a way that HTML has color code. So you see, I have like a gray now, right, on my header. So I'm slowly building out my header, small. Now, I want this thing to look like a real proper header. So I want to add a logo. I downloaded an icon from this site called Flat Icon. This is the name of the site, flat icon. You can get free icons. Some are paid for and some are free. I just typed flat icon on Google and I went to the site. I put in landscape and different landscape came out. So I think I downloaded this. I'll just use it as my logo. So when you click on what you want, anyone with crown is paid for. Anyone without crown is free. So the PNG is free. So I just click here and it downloaded it for me. If you click on this PNG to download the icon for you. So that's how I got my icon. And of course, I added it to my images because it's an image. I just named it logo.png. So I'm going to use that as my logo now, right? So in here, I'm going to add it inside of this header. I will just put it, let it be on the left. So it's going to be an image tag. And then, where did it go to? It's going to be an image tag and the SRC will be images / I want logo.png. And then I want the height to be 40 pixels and I want the width to be 30 pixels because it's a logo, it has to be quite small. Now remember, alt images are always good. So logo for beautiful landscapes, that's the name of our website. So I'm just saying this is, I'm just describing the logo with like, this is our logo. So if I refresh now, you will see that we have our logo now on our header, right? And then I want this logo clickable because I don't know if you've seen some pages where no matter any page you are, once you click on the logo, it will take you back to the home page. So I want to do that. So I'm just going to add a link to it and it will link back to home page. Remember how to add link. It's just a href and you pass in the page you want. So I want it to be on my index. I want it to take me to index.html. And the targets will be self because I don't want it to open on a new tab, right? And then you close it. Obviously, it has to wrap the image. So basically, I have my link, and inside my link, between this link, right, my image is going to be the text between this link. So you can see it's literally what we've even done here for previous ones, right? We have our A tag, open and close, and between it, we have the word home. So it's the same thing. I have my A tag, open and close, and between it, I have an image. So this image now, I've just transformed it into a link of some sort. And if I refresh, I should be able to click this now, and it will take me back to home page. So I'll do some more styling on this header because it still looks quite ugly. So I will style the image itself. I will style the image, nav header. And again, this is where we talked about some of those other selectors where you can style more than one item. So I want to style the image a little bit just to make it look a little better together with the text. So I'm going to say the same, our class name. Remember, our class name is nav header, right? And this header is holding both the logo and all the links. So basically, I can target anything. So remember when we talk about parent and child, so this header is like the parent here, and every other thing inside it is the child, right? And you can target a child using the parents. That thing we talked about styling, like targeting more than one element and styling it, and you see how I'll do that now. So I'm just going to call the class name nav header, and I want the image tag. So it will go into this class nav header and look for any image inside of this class. And that is where this style I'm about to write will be applied to. So nav header, any image inside nav header. So I want that image. I just want it. I want to give it a display of inline block. So in CSS, we have something called display. And there are different types of display. If you say block, it's going to make the elements sit on top of each other. If you say inline, it's going to make the elements stay side by side. If you say inline block, it's still going to make it appear in the same line, but treat it as a block element. I want the image and the rest of my links. So like this image, now remember, this is what is currently looking like. It's on top of each other because by default it assumes block because they are block level elements. But if I want it to stay on the same line, I will just make the image stay inline block. And then there's a property called vertical align. It will align the logo vertically. So vertical align, let it just be middle. This just basically aligns the logo vertically. I have to also style the navigation itself. So nav header, the same class, and nav. So I'll go back just so that you see what I'm styling. So again, the parent nav header and the nav tag. So first, remember we styled image. We said that any image inside of this nav header, give it this style. So now any nav tag inside of nav header, this is what we are doing now. So I'm just going to call it display inline block as well. Let's see if it does what we want it to do. So now you can see that they are all on the same line. There's an easier way to do this, boys. Next week we'll be entering into that topic. So for now, we'll just use this to do it. Now, I want to style the links. So these A tags inside here, I want to style them. So I'm sure you can guess what we'll do now. We'll just call nav header, which is the main parent class, and we'll call A. So any A tag inside of nav header, they will take this style I'm about to put now. So there's something called text decoration. I want none. And you see what this does shortly. If I save and refresh, you see that all the underline has gone off. So by default, they will come underlined. But if you don't want them underlined, you just say text decoration, none. And then I want them to have a margin around them. Again, I'm not going to do margin top, margin bottom, margin left, margin right. I'll just do it on one line to do it shortcut. And this one now, so if you pass in 4 values when you are doing margin or padding, the 4 values will assume top, right, bottom, left. But if you pass in 2 values, what will happen is that, let's actually do it and then I'll explain. So if you pass in 2 values for margin or padding, it will the first value is going to be for top and bottom, and the second value is going to be for left and right. So remember, 4 values will take top, right, bottom, left. But 2 values will take top, bottom, left, right. And that's it. So right now, if I refresh, you'll see that I have more space. So the top and bottom is still the same, but the left and right now have 10, 10 between each of them. 10 on the left, 10 on the right, 10 on the left, 10 on the right, 10 on the left, 10 on the right. That's what you can actually see here. Top, bottom, 0, left, right, 10. And that's it. Now, I want the font size as well. I want it, maybe I just want it a little bold. I want it to be 15 pixels. So if I refresh, okay, it's actually made it smaller. So it's going to be 15 pixels. There's something called font weight. This one would say how thick or how light the font would be. So you can pass in bold, you can pass in medium, or you can even pass in values like numbers. So if I pass in something like 400, the font weight will be very, very light, just like this. But if I pass in something like, say, 500, it might be a little bit thicker. Let's see. Yeah, 500 is a little thicker. So the higher the value, the more weightier the font appears to be. Then I also want it to have color. I want to change the color. I don't like that default blue that HTML gives for link. So I just want it to be hashtag 919191. This would be like a light gray. Yeah, so you see the color is changing. So I just trying to see how our page is starting to get a little more interesting. This is where CSS starts to make things really interesting. So now there's something called hover, right? So hover is literally the word hover. When I carry my mouse over something, it's called hover, right? So I want when I carry my mouse over any link, it should change color. So right now, I'm still going to target the A tags because the A tags is what I want to change, right? So if I say to pass in hover, you just say column hover. So in my nav header class, any A tag that I hover on top of, I want to change the color of it. And I want it to be blue. For it to be blue, I think is 006666. It's going to be blue. But I also want it a little bit transparent. So Visual Studio is very good because once you give a color and you hover over that value, it will bring out the thing and you can actually change color from here, anything you want, right? This is why Visual Studio is good. But you can play around that on your own. I'll just make it a little more transparent. Don't worry, I'm going to teach you people about how colors work, how to get color codes. But at the end of the day, to be fair, it's so much that you can't put all the color code in your head. So what you find out that you're doing is that when you need a color, you go and Google it and find what the color code is. But I'll teach you people how these color codes are derived. So I've put hover. So now if I hover anyone, home is now changing colors. See, they're all changing colors. And this is the beauty of CSS. We are doing all of this just from one file. Imagine I had to go and write inline style, all this one, I will write color this, color this, color this, color this, color this. But no, I don't have to do that. From one place, I'm changing everything. And if tomorrow I need to change all of them again, I don't have to go back and start saying all the inline styles, color change to red, color change to red, color. No, I will just come to this one file and change it here and everything is changed. Now, let's move on to the next element, this image here. I want to style this image here. So for this image here, I will just give it a class name. I'll give it a class of image box. I'll just give it a class of image box because that makes sense, right? Also, I want to style the width and the height from my CSS. So you can also do that for images or anything. You can also style width and height of things from your CSS. It doesn't have to be styled from the main element itself. And that, again, the beauty of CSS. So let's go and write the style for this image now. Remember, this is the image, this image, H1, welcome to the world of beautiful landscape. Then this image we are trying to style now. So to style a class, remember, again, you use dots. So this image box now, I will say dots, image box. And what I want now in that style, I want it to have a width of 100%, so the whole screen. Remember, before we gave it a width of like, is it 600 and a height of 400? Now I want it to have a width of 100%, the whole screen. And then I want it to have a height of 500 pixels. Let's see what that looks like. So right now, our image looks something like this. I actually don't like this image. It's a bit distorted. So I'm going to just use a different image. I mean, I can change the height, the height of it, but ultimately, I feel like I just want to use a different image. I don't even like the color. It's too boring. So I think I'm going to use something like image 5 instead of this image. Let's see if image 5 is better. Yeah, image 5 is much better. So we'll use image 5. Takes the whole width of the screen and the height is going to be 500 pixels. Now, I don't really like what this thing, how this thing is here. I want it under the image. I want the image first. So I will just move it. I'll cut it out of here. So the image will be on its own. And maybe what I can do is create a new section here and put it inside here. I will also put the P tag. I'll also put the P tag inside this section. So this let the image be a section on its own, and then this introduction side be another section on its own, right? So if I refresh now, we now have our image directly under our header, and then welcome to the world of beautiful landscapes here. So very good. Now I want to style this section. I will just call it my introduction section. Introduction, that's what I'll call it, right? So I'll teach you IDs now, how to use IDs to style something. So again, remember what we said, you will just pass the keyword ID. So for class, you pass in class. And then when you go to style it, you say dots. That's that name you pass. For ID, you pass in ID. So I'll just call this main heading because it's the main heading of the page. Again, remember, we have to be giving descriptive names that literally describe what we want. So I'm just trying to teach you a different way of styling with IDs. So main heading. So if I try to style my main heading now, for class, you use dots, the name of that class. For ID, you use hashtag and the name of that heading that you called it. So for main heading, let's say I just want the color to be this one is going to be like a turquoise blue, 7A7A. Let's say that's the color I want. And then I want it to be center on the page, right? And then I want it to have a padding. So they say I'll just do a shortcut, 5px and 0. Remember what I explained to you. So when there are two values, the first value will be top, bottom, and the second value will be left, right. So let's see how our heading looks now. So yeah, so text align center, color of this blue, padding top, bottom, 5px, left, right, 0. But obviously you don't notice left, right because we put the text in the center, right? If the text was very, very big, that's when if we give a value for padding, you will see that you can see the space around it. But basically we've started our heading. Now this whole section, I want to style it as well. This introduction section itself, I just want to give it some basic styles. So since it's a class, we'll call it dots. So I don't know if the more we are styling things, the more it's sticking, the more it's making small sense. But I want to give my whole introduction section generally a margin. I'll just give it margin like this. So basically, the first value, top, bottom, I want it to be 0. Then left, second value is always left, right. When there are two values, the first one is for top, bottom, the second one is for left, right. So top, bottom, let it just be 0. And then left, right, let it be 40 pixels. So like so. So right now, left, right is assuming 40 pixels, right? Very nice. Also, I want the text inside here to make sense. I just don't want a bunch of nonsense in here. So I think I had sent it to myself in my email. So I'm just going to look for the text and try to find one that makes sense in here. Oh yeah, this is the HTML page I'm coding from. So let's just copy this whole thing in here. Make it make sense. Yeah, I had written the whole text out. So, and I had broken all of them into p tags because I feel like it's such a big text to fit into one p tag. So I broke the whole thing into separate p tags. So now we have a text that makes more sense instead of just that rubbish we're writing and duplicating things. So we have a whole text that makes a lot more sense here now, right? Because we are trying to build a real website as it is. So now I want to style these p tags. I can use the same logic I use for this nav header where I target the class and then any child inside the class. So I can just say introduction and p. So which is literally what I would do. So introduction and any p tag inside introduction. Just give it this style I'm about to write now. So I want it to have a line height of 1.7 and you'll see what this does. So all the p tags, so this p tag, we have 3 p tags inside this introduction. So you see how it's going to give it. So you see that I gave it more space between each line, right? So I just like it. I feel like this is fine. It doesn't have to be fine for you. You can play around and land on what is best for you. But this is what I like. Then I want it to have a padding of 10 pixels. So when you pass in one value now for padding or margin, top, right, bottom, left, everything will be that value. If you pass in 2 values, the first value will be top, bottom, the second value will be left, right. If you pass in 4 values, it will be top, right, bottom, left. Again, I'm just repeating myself just so that it's going to keep sticking small. So I just gave it more padding around, and as you can see, the space is a little bit more around it. We don't have to. This is just what I find beautiful. Then I want to justify the text align. So you can make it right aligned, left aligned, center aligned, or justify. Justify is that the left and the right will be like, you will not see all these things, all these ones going inside and continuing. it will be on the same line. I just find it cleaner. The same way this left is on the same line, the right will be on the same line as well. So it will justify both left and right. So as you can see, like this. So I just generally find it cleaner. And our site is coming together slowly. Like this is literally you coding a full website for somebody now. If you're able to practice this after this week that you are just doing, upload on YouTube, and if you're able to practice this is literally you having built a full website now for somebody. So can you see how we are slowly but surely getting our website out? So I'm going to teach you one of those selectors now. So let's say I want to target the first child of this section now, of this class, this introduction class. The first child will obviously be this H1 because that's the first child inside of this section, right? So what you just do is say dot introduction, right? And then you use this arrow symbol and just say first child. And that's it. Let's say I just want to change the font style a little bit. I want it to be in italic. Let's just say that's what I want. So the first child is that H1 before all those paragraphs, right? So this is the whole introduction section. The first child is this H1. So this should be in italics if we've targeted it right. So yeah, you see it's changed to italics. So it's coming along where it's looking really beautiful. Now, let's do some more styles. So I'm going to target just the H2s and H3s on my page. So anywhere so this time around, I'm not using class name, I'm not using dots, I'm not using ID, hashtag, anything. The same way we targeted the body and gave it a font family of one style, and everything on our page is assuming that font style. Now I just want any H2 on my page, any H2 and H3 elements on my page. So things like this H2, this H2, this H2, any other H2 it will find an H3 on this page. It will target it regardless of any class name on it. I'm not using classes. So I'm doing element selector now. Remember, we talked about element selector, we talked about class selectors, we talked about ID selectors. This is an ID selector, hashtag main heading. All of these dots, image box, dots, introduction, they are class selectors. Element selector, you just target the element itself. If it's an H2, you target it as H2 and style it like that. Although I don't really like to use this one. I find class more dynamic. It gives you more room to do more things. So I'll just give it H2, 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 like a faint gray, a faint type of gray. So any H2 on this page now, yeah. So like this one now, you can see is now gray. It was normal black text before, but now it's gray. So it looks nice. Then I would like to style this audio section. Now, this is our audio that we put here to play, right? So let's try to style it. So in the audio section, where is it? Yeah, down here. I will just use a class because, like, again, I like class. I will just call it audio section, right? And then in this audio section, I will go and style it here. Since it's a class, dots. So I know we are now getting the hang of it. So this is a class. We called it a class, right? Literally, where is it? Class audio section. So it has to be a dot in the style file. So dot audio section. And for my audio section, I just want it to be text aligned of center. Let's see if that does anything. I don't know if it will do anything. Oh yeah, it did something. So it moved the whole elements, everything inside of it. So everything inside of audio section like this, it moved it to center because I said text align of center. Then I want it to have a padding of 20 pixels. I want it to have a background color of, let's say, faint gray blue. So that will be C7 CE D4. Let's see if that applied. Yeah, it did. Nice. And then I want it to have a border radius. So you see what border radius is now, of 8 pixels. So border by default is sharp edges like a square. But if you give border radius, it will curve the edges and make it look like more soft and fine, and you will see what happens. So can you see how these edges are now curved? And we also have border radius top, border radius bottom, border radius left, and border radius right. But if you don't do all four, you just say border radius and pass in one value, is going to give all the four corners the same nice circle. Yeah. So border radius 8 pixels, and then I'll teach you about box shadow now. There's something called box shadow, and you see what it does. It sort of adds a shadow behind or inside of the element so that it will make it look like it's raised from your screen a little bit. And I'll do it now. You see what it is. So this is how to specify box shadow. Yeah. Again, all these values mean something, but I'll explain in a bit. So are you seeing how there's like some faint shadow? I don't know if you notice, but the card looks slightly raised, like this container, this whole audio section container looks slightly as if it's raised. There's a little shadow under it. So that's for box shadow, and all these values mean something. As the class goes on, I'm going to sit down and really break down what these values mean. I'll sit down and give an in-depth description, but just know that you can use it to add shadows under a card or inside of like a container in a section basically. And then I want to give this thing a width of 60% of the whole page. I don't want it to be full left to right. So this is 60% of the page, and I want it to be at the center of the page. So I can use margin 0 auto. If you say margin 0 auto, so again, it will give the top and the bottom. If you pass in two values, the first one is the top bottom and the second one is the left right. So 0 for top bottom and left right auto. So it will just calculate the space and give it equal space. That's what auto does. So top bottom 0, left right. Now what else do I want to style? Let's see what is okay. We have an H2 in here. Let me style this H2 more. So I will just say so again, our audio section H2. So remember, the same thing we talked about, the audio section is the main full section, this class. So any H2 inside of this class, it will give it this style I'm about to apply now. So let's just give it a border. Again, border also has the same thing that padding and margin and border radius does. If you give it a border of like 2 pixels, let's say 2 pixels solid this color, let's just give it anything, you will see that it will give it a border around, but I don't really find that fine. I just want it to be a border bottom. So I want it to be a border bottom, and let it just be 2px solid, just a light gray DDD. Yeah, so I prefer the look like this, but you can give your own the full border without specifying border bottom. You can just say border 2px solid, and it will give you the border on the top right, bottom left. But me, I just prefer the border bottom. I will even use opportunity to show you that border radius again. So let's just say I gave mine a border, not a border bottom alone, a full border, top, bottom, left, right. If I pass in border radius of 10 pixels, this is where you see that thing I was explaining on border radius. If I refresh now, you see how it has curved. So a border is sharp by default, but when you give something a border radius, it curves it out. But again, I want a border bottom alone. I don't even want a full border. So let's just use this style as it is. Now, what else do I want to style? So inside my audio, I also have the audio tag. So I want to style this audio tag. So I'm sure you can guess it. So you say audio section and the audio elements inside of the audio. So any audio elements it finds there, it will style it. So I want to give this a width of 100. I don't even know if this will do anything. Let's see. Yeah, so it was not taking any width before. It was just small, but now I'm giving it a width, right, of 100. And then I want to give it a margin of 0 on top and equal space to the left and the right. I don't know if it will do anything because the width is already 100. Then I want to give it a border radius of 5 pixels. Actually, it already has nice border radius. I don't think I want to actually give it any border radius. There should not be border because it's already curved, so I don't think there should be border radius, to be honest. There's something called max width. I can just show you. So max width is basically like no matter how wide your elements get, let it not pass this width. There's mean width and there's max width, and then no matter how small your elements get, let it not be smaller than this width. So max width of 500 pixels. So basically, this limits the width. I'm just doing it for better control to limit the width to 500 pixels inside of this container that is sitting in. But I don't want it to confuse you too much, essentially. But max width in general is like when you pass in mean, you can pass in width, which is like the standard width. But then let's say the screen gets smaller or something. You're on a smaller device, you can pass in mean width, like, okay, no matter how small you get, don't be smaller than this width. And then you can pass in max width, no matter how big you get, don't be bigger than this width. So that's it on max width and mean width. Then so we have this section done pretty much, right? So we'll move on to the featured landscape section. Let's start featured landscape section. So for featured landscape, this is it. I didn't put it in his own section box, but I think I'm just going to do that. I'll put everything inside this section and give it a class of featured landscapes, because I mean that's the name, so it makes sense to give it that class. And then this section obviously is holding everything. It's going to be holding everything inside here, right? So this is our feature landscape section and it's holding multiple images. Actually, I want to even add more images so that, you know, just for the beauty of it. So I'll just call this image 6, image 7, image 8, image 9. We actually have to change the alt of the image, but I'm not going to worry myself too much with it. So now we have multiple images, so I'm going to style this whole section. So in this section now, featured landscape is a class, so obviously we are going to call it dots. Featured landscapes. So now we can style this class. Let's just call it let's just give it a text align of center as normal. Let's see if it does the trick. Yeah, so it styled everything to the center. Let's give it a margin. So I'll pass in 2 values. So the first one is usually the top, like I said. If you pass in 2 values, first one is the top and second one is the top and bottom. Second one is the left and right. So it has some more margin on top and at the bottom. Then what else? I think I want to style the H2 inside of this class. So any H2 inside this class, give it this style I'm about to say. So I want the H2 to have a margin bottom of 20 pixels, just a margin bottom. So it's just going to give it space on the bottom. Then I want the H2 to be a font size of 1.5 EM. So this is another unit of measurement. We have pixels, we have REM, we have EM. They all style things differently, but ultimately it's for sizing things. So that font size seems fine, 1.5. I think it was even originally 1.5, so it didn't change much. And I want the font style to be in italic. So let's see if it slants it. Yeah, it slants it. So that looks good. Now I'm going to style so what I want to do, I want to give it a little description just because I feel like it's empty, like there's just a sound and then there's image right after. I want to give like a little text description before the images. So I'll just put that in a P tag. and just write explore a hand-picked collection of stunning landscapes from serene lakes and glowing sunsets to majestic mountains and forest streams, each one a window into nature's incredible beauty. Yeah, let's just add this text on top before the images. So yeah, it's not as empty, but I'll style the text, of course. So I want to give it a class of its own of featured description. So we are trying to describe what this featured section is about. That's why I'm naming it featured description. So featured description, and since it's a class, we are going to say dot featured description, and we can style it. We can just say max width. I'm going to give it a margin. Remember, I said if I pass in 2 values, the first one is top, bottom, second one is left, right. If I pass in 4 values, it's top, right, bottom, left. So I want the top to be 0. I want the right to be auto. I want the bottom to be 30 pixels, and I want the left to be auto as well. So top will not have any space, bottom will be 30 pixels, left and right will just assume the same equal space. And I want the font size to be 1.1 em, so not too big, not as big as this 1.5, because 1.5 is a head in H2. Then I want it to have a line height so that there will be some like space between each line of 1.6. Then I want it to have a color. It's going to still be dark, but not as dark as it currently is now. Then I want it to have a padding, 0 on the top and bottom and 15 on the left and right. And then I want it to have a text align of center. Let's just see. So let's see what all this style will do now. Yeah. So it's centered, aligned. The color is not as dark as the default black. It has a font size of 1.1 em. So every single thing we styled it in. If you look through, you would actually see that it's assuming every single style that we gave it. The left and right is auto, the bottom has 30 pixels, and so on and so forth. So that we've done that style. Now I want to style the image. The image is inside it. So I'll just give this a class. Uppercase, a class of, I'll just call it image scroll. So I don't want the images to, when the image gets too full, it's going to go to the next line. I want it to just be on one line. So I'll just call it image scroll, and I'll try to make it scroll. Another thing I want is that I don't want to start the width and height for each image one by one. So I will remove all this width and height. Oh, I made a mistake. So I'll remove all the width and height. I'll style the width and height in the class, in the CSS itself, instead of each individual image. If I just give it one style, it's going to take, like everything will take that style. So it's better that way for me. So I'm styling image scroll now. So if I say dot image scroll, so I can now style my image. White space, no wrap. So this makes it that when it gets to the end of the line, instead of breaking to the next line, it will just stay on the same line. Now we have something called overflow. Overflow is when something gets to the end of the page and right, instead of going to the next line, you can make it scroll, or you can hide it. And I'll show you what this means in a bit. And we have different types of overflow. So it uses the concept of graph. If you remember maths in primary school or wherever, where we have x-axis and y-axis. So we have overflow X, which is horizontal, left to right, and we have overflow Y, which is vertical, top to bottom. But if you don't give overflow X or Y and you just say overflow, both X and Y will have the same style. But me, I want just the X, and I want it to be auto. And then overflow Y, I want it to be hidden. So let's refresh and see what this looks like. Ooh, the image is so big. I have to style the image itself before we can see the change. So I'm going to style the images itself. Now remember, I removed the width and the height, so the image has gone out of control. So I'll just style it with the main section and say any image inside of this featured landscape class. I want to give it a height of about, let's say 200 pixels, which is the height that was there before I removed it, and a width of, let's say 320 pixels. It was 300, but I'll just make it slightly wider. Then I want the display to be in line block so that it will still be on the same line. And then the margin, I don't want it to have any margin. Let it just be 0. And the padding, I want it to be 0 as well. I don't want it to have any padding. And I don't want it to have any borders. So borders should be none. So now I think our image is going to look better. So now our image can scroll on the x-axis. Remember, x-axis, if we all remember, like I said, from our primary school and whatnot, when we were doing maths and the rest, x-axis is usually from left to right, while y-axis is top to bottom, right? So we passed in overflow X and we said auto. So if there's an element inside here and it gets to the end of the page and it sees that there's more element, it will start to scroll automatically. That's what will happen. Why overflow? Why? We passed it hidden. So we don't even want to see the scroll, even if there's something to scroll from top to bottom, we don't want to see it. So that's why it's scrolling now. Everything is on the same line. So I'm just expecting that, you know, we are going to go back, test everything out and see it in, you know, actual action, see it working, right? So that's with the image. So which other section do we have? We have our, the final section. Yeah, other views section. So let's try to style other views better. This one was the one where we put a video, right? Yeah. So other views, we put a video last week on this. The same thing, I will just take off the width and the height from this because I want to style it from the CSS instead. And I will just target it. So already we have this ID here. Remember when we were doing that navigation so that we can jump to that section of the page, we created this ID. So I actually can just use this same name in the CSS. And remember, for IDs, you use hashtag, the name of the ID that you gave it. So for other views, the same thing, I want it to be centered. Let's see if it changes. Yeah, everything is centered, but it's so big because I've taken off the width and the height. So I'll give it a width and a height shortly. But on top of that, I want it to have a margin of 60 pixels on the top and bottom and auto for the left and the right. And then I want it to have a padding in general of 20%. So top, bottom, left, right. I want it to have a background color of hashtag DEDDD. So it's also going to be like a faint gray of some sort. I want it to have a border radius of 10 pixels. So the edges will not be sharp. It's going to be curved, 10 pixels curved. So it will be slightly a little more curved. Then I want it to have a box shadow of 0. So basically the same box shadow. I can't find the other one to copy, but Yeah. And then I want a max width of, let's say, a max width of, let's say, 70% of the whole screen. Although I've not given it a width and height, so it would still look funny. So you see, I've not given the video itself a width and height, but I was styling the section where the video is sitting inside. So you can see that this section is what I was styling. So the gray, the center, the margin, auto, and everything is applied to this section. So let me give the video a width and height. First, let me actually give the H2. So I want the font size to be 1.5 em like other ones. And then I want the margin bottom to be 20 pixels, so it will have a space at the bottom a little bit. And I want the font style to be in italic, so it's going to be slanted, right? Yeah. Now let's start the video itself finally, because it's really messing things up. Other views, then the video tag. So any video tag you find inside the other views section is going to style it. I just want to give it a width. It's really ugly now, scattered. So width of 100 pixels. So it's going to take the full 100% of this container. So I don't know if you're seeing the logic of how this thing works. Remember, the container itself, I already said that the max width should be 70%. So no matter how big you get, don't be more than 70% of the screen. And now I'm saying this one should be a width of 100%. But because this video is sitting inside of this section, is going to be 100% of its parent, not 100% of the whole screen. Do you get? So they will always respect the parents that they are sitting inside. So even if the parent is 30%, for example, the max width is 30%, it will be it will take the full 30% and not the whole screen from left to right, because it's confined inside its parents. I don't know if that makes a little more sense, but obviously when you're practicing it, you can play around with stuff. And I want the height of the video to be 600 pixels. And the max width of the video, so I'll just give max width because it helps with more control, but we've already said the video should be 100% of its parents anyway. And then I want the border radius of my video in particular to be 8 pixels if it already doesn't even have. I don't know if it has. Then I want outline to be none. So outline, sometimes by default, some elements have outline where it will create like a line around the element, and I don't usually like that. So I'll just give it an outline. Then let's see what else is there to style. What else do we have in there? Other sections. Okay, yeah, so because it's a little empty as well, I'll do the same thing I did for featured section where I added a little bit of text in there. So I'll just say, let the soothing rhythm of the ocean wash over you in this calming video captured at sunset. The gentle waves and golden lights of, I don't even know if this video has all these things that I'm writing, but I just need something that makes sense instead of writing nonsense text. I'm trying to build it out to be as real as possible, so we need to use reasonable text. So yeah, so now our video has a width and a height, so it's 100% of its parents, which is the other views section. So I want to style this text just because I don't like the color, to be fair. So I'll just put it here. So the P tag. So for the P tag, I want it to have a max width of, say, 700 pixels. I want it to have a margin of 0 on top, auto at the right, 20 pixels at the bottom, and auto on the left. And I want it to have a font size of 1.1 EM. So basically, it has the same size as the other one. Technically, you can even use the same class name, because I remember we did something like this in one of these descriptions, I think. Yeah, for this one. We technically did something similar to this, but I'll just create his own separate style. It's fine. I might not want it to be exact same style. So I'll just create the P of this other section in his own class here, in his own ID here. I want the line height to be 1.6. What else? I want the color to be a little dark, 444, but not all the way like full on rich black. And I want the text aligned to be centered, which I think is already centered, to be fair. And I want the padding to be 0 on the top and bottom and 15 to the left and right. So let's see. Yeah, it looks smoother and cleaner to me. So we have it. Our video is still playing as normal. So yeah, our page is looking really good so far. I really like it. I think that's all for now, but one last thing I would really like to style is this footer, because I feel like a footer should look way more beautiful than this. So I'm going to update some of the code in the footer a little bit and then try to style it. So in this footer, I'll put everything in a section, right? And this section, I'll give it a class of, I'll just call it footer container. And I'll put another section inside here. I'll tell you why in a bit. So this first section is just going to hold a text. I'll give it a class as well. I'll go into the CSS and style the class in a bit. I'll just call this footer section. So footer container, footer section, right? And inside this first section, I want an H4. And I just want it to be the name of our site, Beautiful Landscapes. And I also want a paragraph with just a text capturing breathtaking views from around the world. So this is a section inside our footer. Now, I want a second section. So are you seeing what I'm doing? I'm just creating elements, nested elements. So we have our footer, our whole footer here. And inside of our footer, I'll explain what I'm doing in a bit. Don't be confused, please. I know the whole CSS has been overwhelming generally. There's no how you will be confused, but once you practice it, and if you have any questions, you just reach out to me and I break it down, like maybe on our one-on-one time, then it will make more sense. So in this one, I'll call this quick links. I just want this to look as real as possible, as much of a real site as possible. So in this one, I want some links in here instead of just a text. I want a navigation link, and instead of, I'll use a UL, I'll use like a list for this, just so that we can highlight a little bit on list again. This is to the home page. You see what all this looks like in a bit, and once I refresh to make sense what I'm doing. And target itself, of course, I don't want it to open on a different this is home. I will just copy and do for portfolio and contact. To be fair, I can't type all this, so we don't run out of time. Portfolio.html, contact.html. This will be portfolio. This will be contact. So this last section, I think I also want links in here, but I will just say follow us. So I want to put our social media page. And in here, I'll also have a UL tag, but I'll give it a class of socials because I want to put our social media pages here so I can style it in CSS later. So socials, Why is it not closing? Yeah, socials. And then I'll give it li with a tag. And this will be our Instagram. And inside this a tag, obviously, we have to pass the link to our Instagram. So let's just say it's https www.instagram.com/ I don't know the page. I'll just put hashtag for now. If you can put your own Instagram page if you want here, and your own Twitter and your own Facebook when you are practicing by yourself. But yeah, for now I'm not putting anybody's page. And target is blank because I want it to open on a different page. So target self, if you remember. So target self opens on the same tab and target blank opens on a different tab, right? If you remember. So I want to do for Facebook and for Twitter. So I'll just change this to facebook.com and I'll change this to twitter.com. And this will be Facebook and this will be Twitter. Yep. So we have everything in here. Then this last one, finally, I think I'll just use a small tag around it so that it will be very tiny in size. I don't really want to do too much styles here. Just a small tag around it. Small is a tag as well, an HTML tag. I don't know if we talked about it, but we have small, we have strong. Remember when we did all of those tags? So these are all my classes now. Now I want to style, starting from the footer container. Let's style this class first. So in our CSS, before we start, let's even look at what it looks like. It will look really ugly for now. So see, this is what our footer looks like now, but let's style it and make it look like a standard footer, a really nice standard footer. So the first is the footer container class. So in our footer container, I don't want too much. I just want a padding of 40 pixels. So the whole container should just have 40 pixels around it. So as you can see, it's giving it space. Now, the next thing we had there was our footer section class. I think we had that class, right? Let me see if I spelled it well. Footer section, yeah. So we've styled this footer container, which holds, everything to this point. So they all have 40 pixels of padding. Now we are styling the footer section, which is this section, and this section, right? So what do we want in there? Let's just say we want them all to have a font size of 1.2 rem. This is another unit of measurements. I told you we have pixel, we have EM, we have REM. I don't know if I think we have other ones as well. I'm not sure. I'll look it up. Then I want each of them to have a margin bottom of 15 pixels and I want them to have a color of FFF. Let's just call it that. And my footer itself, so this one I'm going to target it by element. I will even target it by class. I want my footer to have certain styles. So I want it to be width of 100% of the whole screen. The background color, I want it to be hashtag 1B1B1B. So it's going to be a dark color. And I want the color of the text itself to be E0, E0, E0. So it's going to be a lighter text on a darker background. So let's see. Yeah, so it's coming together well. So the footer itself, that's the main element, the main footer element. This one, I target it and I gave it a background, a dark background color and a light text, and I made it a width of 100%, so end to end of the screen. Then the footer container, which is this first section that is holding these three sections, that's the footer container. I just gave it a padding of 40 pixels. Then the footer sections, which are these 1, 2, and 3 sections, I now gave it a font size of this, margin bottom of this, and color of this. To be fair, even if I don't give it color, it will assume the color that I've given on this footer already. Now, what else? So dot footer section, but I want to style the H4. So remember, we have H4 inside all of them, which is like the title of the sections. So for all H4s, actually this is supposed to be for footer section. footer section h4. The footer section itself, I'm just giving it a width of 30%. I'll explain what this float left means and margin bottom of 30 pixels. Okay, yeah, so let's refresh it and see what it is. So basically, float left will make each of the section align side by side. So you see that they were all under each other. Now they are side by side, right? And the width to make each of the section 30%. So 30% of the screen, 30% of the screen, and 30% of the screen. That's why I did this width 30%. So each of these section now, 1, 2, and 3, there will be 30%, 30%, 30%, and they will stay side by side of each other. That's why I had done this here, right? So, and obviously their H4s will be 1.2 rem, and they'll all have a margin bottom of 15 pixels. So all the H4s inside these sections, they will have that style there. Now, after the H4, I want to style the navigation. So any nav inside the footer section class. In fact, I want to style the navigation and the UL tags. Let's just put it that way. So any nav and UL tag inside of this footer section class, I want to style it now. Let's just give it margin bottom of 10 pixels, nothing too fancy. Now I want to style any A tag inside of footer section. I want to give it that text decoration of none because I don't want it to be underlined. I want the color to be A8DADC. And I want something called transition 0.3. And I'll tell you why I'm giving this transition, because I want to put a hover over it and I just want it to change. I want it to change smoothly. So transition, I used to apply like further effects to your elements, right? If you apply transition, it can make things appear more smoother when they are changing. So whenever I hover, I want the color to be white, but because I put a transition on the A tag, is going to go smoother. It's just going to look more sleek. It's just for extra beauty, really. It's not for anything much, to be honest. So it's not changing yet. Okay, well, it's changing actually. But because this part is still white, it's not showing against the background, but it's changing, which I'm going to correct this now as well. So we have another class in here. We call this one social. So I'll style this one now as well. And just see. So our socials class, to style our social media handles, list style is none. So remember that list comes with bullet point or numbers 1, 2, 3. But if you say list style none, the bullet points will go off, which is what I basically want. I don't want it to show a bullet point on this footer because, to be fair, it doesn't look nice. It looks nice on maybe the way we did it on portfolio, but not on footer. Then I want to style the footer bottom, which is where I put that copyright stuff, right? Clear, I will say both. This basically clears any previous floats. Oh, I made a mistake. This L is not supposed to be there. No wonder I wasn't looking right. So any previous floats, like all these floats left, I put for footer bottom. I don't want it to apply to footer bottom, because right now you can see that footer bottom is also taking floats left. So I want the this one to be under of these 3. So I will just say clear both, and it will remove any float that applies to the other ones. Then width of 100%. I want it to take the full width. I want the text aligned. I want it to be centered. I want a padding around it of 20 pixels top and bottom and 0 on the left and right. I want a background color of hashtag 111111. So let it be very dark. I want a font size of 0.9 rem. And then finally, I want a border on top of it. Not everywhere. If I wanted it everywhere, I would just say border, but now I'm saying border top because I want a border on top of it alone. So that's it. So if you refresh, now you can see that it's under here. But the quick link still has the bullet points. So I'm just going to fix it now. So I'm going to give it a list style of none. And I'm going to give it a padding of 0. I don't think I need this here. But I think I still need to style. Yeah. I want to style the list itself. So this one, I was only styling the unordered list tag. I want to style it together with the list item tag itself now. And that one, I just want to give it a margin bottom of 10 pixels. That's it. So basically, this is what it should look like. This one doesn't have a margin bottom. Yeah, I think this is what is responsible. The list items of the socials should have a margin bottom of 10 pixels as well. And then just to be certain that it would go on different lines, display of block. Yeah, so it now has spacing. So this is kind of what I want my footer to look like. So everything I've just done here now, just a recap. This is my entire footer section, right? From top to bottom, right? My main footer elements, I only gave it a simple style of background color of this color that is close to black and the color of white. And I say I want it to be 100% width. So my whole footer as a whole like this is a dark color with 100% width. That's it. Now, inside of the footer, we have an outside section. This section takes so many elements all the way to the bottom. It stops here. And I gave this section a class of footer container. And this is the footer container. Basically, it just has a padding of 40 pixels. So this is 40 pixels around it. 40 pixels. That's all it really does. Now, inside this section, we have 3 other sections. 1, 2, 3. And the 3 sections basically represent 1, 2, 3. And they have a class name of footer section, all of them. And they each have 30% width and they float left so that they can stay side by side with each other. And they have a margin bottom of 30 pixels. That's just it. Then the H4. So inside this footer section class, any H4 you find, I just gave it this style. Font size and margin bottom and color, that's it. Then inside footer section again, any nav tag you find and any UL tag you find, I just said list style type of none to remove those bullet points and remove any padding from them. Same thing, it looks like a lot, but it's literally, we are just doing the same thing, but targeting different children inside of footer section. So inside footer section again, the nav, UL, and any LI tag you find, give it a margin bottom of 10 pixels. That's why there's space of this 10 pixel under it. Then the same thing, any A tag you find, give it a text decoration of none to remove the underline. Give it this color, this blue color you can see here. And then a transition of 0.3 seconds is. Then when I hover over any of the A elements, change it to white. So that's just what is doing this. But it's happening more smooth because of the transition. You may not really notice it, but it's there. And then finally, for socials class, the same thing, remove the bullet points, list style type of none. I don't want margin, I don't want padding. But the list items of the socials, which is these ones, margin bottom of 10 pixels. And display of blocks so that it stays on top of each other, which I think it was already staying on top of each other anyways. Then the footer bottom is this one now, this one here. basically I say clear both so that it will, okay, we added a float left of it to it, right? So now to remove the float and make this one stay under 3 of them, you just say clear both and give it a width of 100%, text align center, padding, and every other style you want it to basically look like. And this is how we built our footer. So I mean, it's not even, you know, it looks complex, but it's not as complex. So what I could do now, if I just copy this whole footer, where is it? If I Control C, copy this footer and go to portfolio page and replace this our ugly footer here, and contact page as well, replace this scanty footer, right? We'll have our footer, but obviously it won't work because I've not linked the CSS, right? It will still look ugly. It will just look like this. This is where it starts from. So you have to remember to link your CSS. So in my contact page now, you have to attach that link rel style sheet, right? And in your portfolio page, you also have to attach the style sheet. And once we refresh, you will see that our footer now works for all the page. We are on what portfolio page now. We go to contact page, we have our footer. If we go back to home, so it's just for additional navigation. It just helps to show extra navigation on your page. Nothing really. And this one from our home page, if you remember, it works. It still works. So it's still a link. So yeah, we've built out this whole page, and it's looking more and more like a real website. We built out this whole page now, start things nicely. So I'm not expecting that, oh, you understand everything today. We covered a lot of things. It's quite broad. But what I'm expecting is that at least go back, watch the video slowly, and use it to try and do everything. And if you get lost somewhere, if you get confused and you start to mix things up, just text me, reach out to me on the group or on my personal line, and I'll be able to put you through even more. But just play around with it and have a go at it and see if you can build the same thing. And then also as well, build out one more page. Because of time, I'm not able to build out all the pages, but it would be good if you can be creative, find a way to build out the portfolio and the contact page. I'll be really, really happy if you can. We've already done the footer here, but if you can recreate the header, add the logo, style it well, put some of these things in a better place around the page, just using ideas of what we've done in our homepage, that would be really good. So with that, we have come to the end of this one. If there's any quick questions anyone has, that's fine. Otherwise, if you feel like you've been very overwhelmed today and you want to go back and have a go at it, then that's still fine as well. But for now, that's the end of the class.
I have one question.
Yeah.
So the adding padding and margin, there is a point where you mentioned that the first one, when you put like the first padding, for example, let me use padding as an example, that you add means that you're dealing with the one like above and below the other one. The next one is left and right.
Yeah.
So my question is, it's always a particular number. What if you want a different padding from the left and right? How do you differentiate that?
So you can just write it like, so if you want like padding top to be a different value from padding left and padding bottom and padding right, you can pass in 4 values here. And the first value usually means the top. The second value usually means the right. The third value means the bottom, and the fourth value means the left. So anything you pass in for each individual one, that's how it will be. So when you pass in 4 values, you can target the 4 sides. But when you pass in 2 values, the first value is targeting the top and the bottom, and the second value is targeting the left and the right. So if you want to give them 4 different sizes on the 4 sides, you pass in 4 values and you give the 4 values: top, right, bottom, left. That's what they mean. top, right, bottom, and left. So that's kind of what it is. So if you play around with it, you will get the hang of it some more, right? So, well, yeah, you can do what you asked now. It's just passing the specific value you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I will see you in the next week. Take care. Bye.